Alright, let's see if we can do this a little faster. The first video I did was taking way too long. So all of this information came from Brett online there on Facebook. It's his design. I saw pictures he had up of it, and I asked him if he could help me out with some measurements. And he also gave me further information. He even did a video chat with me to show me how he had his going. It all comes from what he taught me. First piece that I needed measurements off of was wheel to wheel, which in his case was around 2 feet, I think. And mine's just a little over because when I was measuring my wheel to wheel and cutting this piece of wood, I had forgotten that I've got to add a little thickness for the front 2x4. So the motor is bolted down to this 2x4 and that other piece back there, and then these 2x4s are screwed down to the table itself. Come to the front here and you've got a long piece, and I've got mine extended up a good way so I can mount a light and maybe some kind of a bar or something sticking out here to catch a belt if it snaps before it hits me in the face. But I've extended the height of mine to allow for some mounts on the top for some additional stuff. The truck's in the front. In the case of mine, the clearance between my drive wheel and motor is so narrow that I had to add a second post on the side here so I would have more stability when setting in the left side screws for the trucks. This makes it actually sturdier in the front and gives me a place to build off of if I want to mount a table, using some angle iron. I can put a piece out like this and another piece mounted to like that for a table. I can also set different screws, maybe 2 here for a straight mount across the front. I'm going to do 2 at an angle this way, so when I can take my table and mount it at a set angle to the wheel, and maybe 2 down there. You can play around having this post in front. Gives you a couple more options for mounting some sort of a table. I'll use that same piece of angle iron in here for the platen. So I'll have some wood mounted here, and then the steel angle iron mounted to it, cut out at an angle so that it doesn't get in the way of the wheels, and then the flat edge of it against here. Come around to this side and you can see the pivot post and pivot arm on Brett's, again because he had more clearance between his drive wheel and belt, or drive wheel and motor. He's able to put this pivot arm on this side. For me, I put it to this side, so I had clearance between the tracking wheel and the post. Pivot wheel, or pivot arm right here. I've used one of these, you hammer them down. It's like a nut that can be, it's got teeth, and you hammer it down to the wood to be able to screw this threaded rod into. This threaded rod goes straight through. I've also used some JB weld to hold it in place. Goes straight through, and it pushes on this side of the door hinge, which is a 3-inch door hinge. Pushes on the inside of it to be able to push this out, pushing this arm up and moving this wheel. There's your tracking. This is another, all of this is threaded rod here and here. Threaded rod that's been bolted down. There's a bolt on this side and on the inside of the door hinge, locking it in place. And then, as Brett had suggested, a set of nuts on this side and this side of the wheel that are screwed down to each other to lock them into place so the bearing can spin freely. This wheel and the 2 platen ones have their bearings. My drive wheel doesn't fit the bearing, but that's fine. It doesn't want to be spinning on a bearing. The drive wheel needs to be mounted solidly to the arbor on your motor, so that it's turning. It's doing all the pushing, and these wheels are all flowing freely from it. Everything's held down with 3-inch wood screws right through to 3/4-inch plywood, and then a base of a whole bunch of 2x4, so I could have something solid to build off of. The table is mostly built from scrap pieces picked up at nearby factories. All I added to it was the 2x4, but all the rest of it, plywood and everything about the frame, is all free wood. Measurements. I'll throw out some of those real quick here so you can see. Hopefully I don't take too long in this second version trying to get these measurements out to you. Okay. Make sure this thing is standing up. There. Okay. I have wheel to wheel. That's drive wheel to lower platen. 25 inches. I think 24 inches is probably a better number. The 1-inch difference ended up giving me a little less room in here, but still plenty. Wheel to wheel and platens are 9.5 inches. And then tracking wheel to upper platen, center to center, is about 8.5. And then this tracking wheel. This drive is about 20 and a half or so. The first thing that I cut was the bottom post, was the bottom 2x4, sorry, which on mine runs 26 inches, sorry. The bottom 2x4 runs 24 and a half inches, and then there's a 2x4 in front, making it 26. This was the main piece that I cut, and I built everything up off of it. So again, this main 2x4, in my case, is 24 and a half inches. 24 inches is probably totally fine for you. And then a 2x4 in front. My 2x4 front posts measure 30 inches in height. Gives me a lot of room up here to mount extra parts to. The pivot post from the 2x4 running across the bottom to the top of the pivot post is just shy of 22 inches. I have this bolted in on the pivot arm. Again, from the 2x4 to that, it's about 15 inches. So from this bottom 2x4 to this piece of threaded rod that I use for the pivot, it's about 15 inches. Is that what I said? Yeah. The pivot arm itself measures just shy of 14 inches. The key for this one for me was giving myself just enough clearance right here that I felt comfortable with. And then this is a 3-inch door hinge bolted on here. Threaded rod to hold on to the tracking wheel. Did I already mention that? Yeah. Anyway, threaded rod here, threaded rod for the other side of the door hinge. And that's actually threads through and pushes the tracking arm open or closed. With the tracking arm, I drilled behind it into the wood to make clearance for the bolt holding the tracking arm threaded rod on so that the bolt can sink right into the 2x4, which gives you some negative so it can push out, or negative flat right against it. My hinges here, my spring rather, it's an 8-inch spring I think is what I chose. No, this is the 10-inch, so I'm running the 10-inch spring on it with eye hooks to hold on to it. Just corner to corner. You could always have these eye hooks up to this top if you wanted more pull on it. I might play around with that myself. What other measurements? From this post, the pivot post, to the front post, we're looking at 8 inches. So 8 inches between these two posts. And then based on that info, you can cut yourself a corner piece of wood to brace this as well. That should be enough of the measurements, I think, to get going. Again, a lot of it you can play with once you know your wheel distance here. The rest of it falls into place, but it's good to have some numbers to sort of base things on. I wouldn't cut everything all at once, though. I cut this first. I hung the front. I hung this. I hung this wheel, and then I started to cut other pieces to fit. I knew the 8 inches here to here, and I liked that measurement, so I also set this post in 8 inches away. Once I had this post, the bottom one, and the bottom truck on, the rest I eyeballed as I popped it all into place and made sure it fit the way I like. Do a quick slow walk through here so you can see all of it. See the tracking arm there, spring. All right, that's good. A 9-10 minute video. That's a lot better than my first try. Hope that is good enough info for y'all.